Good morning, everybody. I'm Laura, the quant soul of this story, and Clara is the qual one. This morning we would like to tell you a story about how the integration between qual and quant could be sometimes more effective and efficient if it becomes a blend.
As Massimo underlined before, consumer doesn't exist. There is a person thinking and feeling, and at the same time facing a product, scoring sometimes, and giving score and ranking. But that is all together. So this is not the case of a qualitative consumer sometimes or quantitative consumers some other times. So to tell you this story, we have to start from a well-known statement, which is that so far in most cases, we were used to apply efficiently integrated research up against the request to define potentiality or development directions for a product or a concept or whatsoever. And in our research, we were used to apply two paradigms, qualitative or quantitative, as well sharp-cut paradigms, never intersecting, even if very often they meet each other. When this happens, they mutually make themselves clear because one gives weight and measures to the deepness, or on the contrary, weight and measure acquire substance and deepness. So they are two parallel tracks. They integrate themselves but never blend.
Thus, summarizing, the moment we face a client request, often we need to integrate the two paradigms which hold steady, nevertheless integrated each other.
So what happens if a client comes?
On a winter's night, a client came asking for a research project.
I need to get qualitative insights, but also quantitative data. Respondents have to see and touch our products, but I'm also fascinated by web tools for research. I need quick sessions and actionable insights, as well as in-depth interviews.
Okay, it was out of sync. Anyway, what he wanted was qualitative insight and at the same time practical elements for product development.
But he wanted more quantitative dimensions on liking, for example, on the ranking of preference, and other few quantitative elements.
Something able to give him actionable results, listening to the target both from a subjective perspective and at the same time from a collective perspective. You didn't hear, but he said, something different, please. Qualitative, I need practical elements for product development. Eventually, the web is a well-appreciated option, but in any case, even the web was an appreciated option. The interviewees have to see and touch and have a go with the product.
Not an easy challenge, by the way. Also, the client was very fascinated by the advantages of the web, even if we explained to him that it is at least the difficulty to let somebody touch something via web, at least for now, but it is a difficulty, actually.
Thus, just to proceed in order, the client who came was an affectionate one, used to testing with us most of the new products to launch during the year. He was operating in the sector on watch and daily jewelry, and he was deciding to venture to a new sector, handbag, using one of the distinctive materials characterizing the product. The material was, by the way, rubber.
Each prototype counted some alternatives in terms of color and size. By the way, they were used to conduct a classic quantitative product test about new lines of watches or jewelry, presenting about every time 10 lines per product test, per test.
But lately, he started to ask us for qualitative product tests to better explain what the numbers per se were not able to give. I mean, you know, those insights who lead to a reading in depth of the quantitative results. From another point of view, every time he decided to have qualitative product test, the final question was about the relevance of liking or acceptance and the main dimension of involvement. So really, at the end of the day, he wanted quantitative measures as well.
But as you saw now in Plains War, he was asking to have an insight loaded and at the same time synthetic concept product measure, concept product test, able to give straight indication about preferences and opportunity to go to the market, able to define what was the winning model, also in terms of engagement, not only in terms of liking, for example.
So you see, really practical results, but even if practical results have small problems, very strategic problems for the company. And so, summarizing the request was to get clear and straight directions, actionable insight, practical and measurable elements, because he needed to improve this handbag. He needed to know how was to be done with the buckle of the handbags, or the color, or the shape, or the size. And he stated he wanted to understand the stereotypes in consumers' perception and to go beyond the stereotypes. You know, this is a real problem because consumers, when they speak to us, they are jailed in their own paradigms. They are not able to go beyond. They tell us what they are used to see and what they are used to talk about with friends and with the environment. So it was an easy challenge. And would you like to see our reaction?
We need to go beyond the stereotypes, against a too linear approach. A holistic approach, blending qualitative and quantitative research.
So what we immediately understood?
We understood that a too linear approach could have risk not to catch the real issue behind.
And we immediately saw the need to blend the advantages of qualitative insight with the determinism of numbers. And this is relevant, letting the number grow from the meaning.
But we understood also the relevance to set the respondent in the most efficient state of mind as an individual or as a part of a community.
Because the interviewees are not individual or part of the community. They are both at the same time. And we understood that we need to go beyond the stereotypes. But Laura, you spoke about linear approach. What do you mean?
Linear approach is to conduct a quantitative product test, classic quantitative quantitative qualitative to have insight, and then carry out a product test, and then read the result ex post by the researcher. For sure is a very good methodology, but sometimes quantitative and qualitative needs to be really blended.
And about blending, what do you mean with blend qualitative, quantitative?
I mean the feeling in the number and the number in the feeling. I mean a loaded number.
So thinking and spending entire days discussing together, we got to an holistic approach. The holistic test is only one stage test, which is a blend of 3 different but at the same time organic moments. The advantage is that this kind of test eliminates any trade-off between qual and quant, between in-group or individually, and even between online and offline. And this was possible thanks to the arrangement in only one stage, permitting the interviewees to shift from being individual and being part of a collective group, and allowing them to stay in front of their own PC. They brought in our office their own laptop, and so expressing themselves without any barrier, because they were alone with themselves.
During this time frame, we put the respondent in a situation that smoothly shifts from the collective evaluation to an individual state of mind, in which they are asked to reflect on the specific product tested, on the specific elements of each product, and giving not only score about liking.
And actually, even when they were online, connected to a platform online, they were asked to go in depth with specific qualitative techniques and questions. Then they went back to be a part of a community, a collective brain. But that collective brain, at that point, after they saw the product, they touched the products and had a go with the products, were able to better express developments of the products themselves, or if you prefer, if you have a concept of the concept. And let you give some details about how it works, some technical specifications.
Yes, first of all, consider that we must have at a basic plan at least 3 sessions in order to have at least 60 participants. Even if it is not a very large sample, it is enough in this case to quantify the acceptance of the products or the concept, reading the data on the total sample, naturally.
And you need to have 3 rooms, 2 for discussing with participants, and 1 where the products are on display and where the PCs are placed. So the interviewees arrive, they are immediately split in 2 subgroups of 10, and they have a normal discussion groups about market perception, unmet needs, and whatsoever you need to map their knowledge, their perception, and their desire towards the market and towards those kind of products.
And after the mapping phase, all the respondents move to a second room where the products or concepts are on display. They are asked to evaluate them individually, not sharing any option or perception. They can touch and feel the product, they can try, really. The moderators just attend this phase to explain the products and to be of help if required, as an interviewer can do in a normal classical product test. The participants are assigned to a laptop and they give their evaluation individually.
Once the evaluation phase is over, they are split again in the same previous 2 subgroups, and eventually the moderator go back to a collective dynamic. The group express itself like a community that had experienced the new product and it's ready for the follow-up. So, back to our case history. Do you remember the research objectives were to get to a definition of the most potential ideas and of development guidelines?
And we decided to adopt this holistic approach that permitted us to have impact and perception of each product concept, perception of the product category, mapping of the competitive market, main occasion of usage, price positioning, capability of engagement of each product, and guidelines and element to optimize the new prototypes.
So before telling you about the results we obtained, let us tell you how we got to these results. First of all, we had three levels of analysis. First of all, in-depth analysis. Perception means from the unmet needs to the perception when the product are shown, and so emotional and rational to generate detailed motivations and supply indications, for instance, about how the product needs to be improved or changed, and all about the values transmitted to the consumers by the product, and why it could be considered for a possible purchase and under what conditions.
And then the second part is the identification online framework for each product, identifying the key elements perceived and how they are relevant, as well as semantic axis by means of semantic analysis, how the product are interpreted by our consumers. And the third step is the data about the dimension to share perception in detail, analyzing motivation, generate product concept developments, both on the whole and regarding specific elements.
And here you can see the kind of output we gave and we give to the clients in this case. In our case history, we had in-depth analysis and identification framework from the strict qualitative point of view. And so we spoke with him about all the word of women's accessorized, obviously regarding the typology we were testing, the images and values perceived, and all about the specific product, those handbags. Also being able to talk about the innovation they were expecting from the market and from those products. But why we were able to talk about innovations? Because we also had the online part, the individual part, who generated, as you can see, not only some word clouds, they are in Italian, but it's quite intuitive, and it was about distinctiveness and the feelings when you try this handbag. And we had those word clouds, but at the same time, the words were placed onto those axes generated by the software, but coming from the interviewees thinking brand benefits, product benefits, and about the characteristic of the products, and the word was clusterized and weighted. So we were able to talk also about the innovation expected.
Okay.
Yes, and then we pictured the brand landscape, talking about protagonist, background actors, and also we supplied all the information about the products and the development required from the consumers.
And also we had a typical quantitative measure, quantitative result, such as the rational preference ranking. By the way, showing that the prototype 2 was the preferred one in this case. But, thank you. But even more relevant for the client decision, and interesting and at the same time immediate and clearly understandable index, we call it the involvement index. It is elaborated processing 3 main KPIs for each alternatives: the overall liking, the desirability, and the ability to persuade. So very, very simple.
Why this is so relevant? First of all, because this experience shows these are the dimensions that really lead the purchase of the consumers. But at least we have another reason. These evaluations are given also from the emotional point of view, because don't forget that they had been thinking and reasoning and feeling about the products in the qualitative online phase. They saw the product, they touched, they evaluated it online, and then they went back to give scores. So it's an emotional number that comes out. And they spoke about the market on the collective phase at the beginning. So those numbers was really loaded with emotions and feelings. That is what happened on the market. You as a consumer shop around and see a lot of stuff and evaluate those things in your mind, and those things make you feel bad or happy or whatever, and then you decide if you buy that or not to buy that.
Furthermore, the index is calculated on the basis of those who express the weighted highest level of adhesion to all the 3 KPIs.
So it's a strict index.
Then, every time we can have also some quantitative measure. This time they were related to the uniqueness, to the price evaluation, and to the brand fit, as it was a brand stretching. They could be different, it depends on the client needs, but what counts, let me underline again, is that these numbers are loaded with the emotion, are numbers that grow from feeling and emotion, and not the numbers per se.
So, if you want to see a prototype between the two prototypes shown, prototype 2 won.
Okay, hai saltato una slide.
Okay.
Yes.
Prototype.
Okay. Don't worry.
Prototype 2 won, and that was because we realized that women felt this bag as a standalone handbag. An handbag able to give a touch of originality to the woman who chooses it. And it was perceived as innovative because of the material, and classy at the same time because the refinement and the shapes, but with values of practicality and functionality. And these had a high value for the respondent, even compared with the prospective competitor already on the market.
And actually, the price positioning perceived was definitely higher than the one foreseen by the client itself. And it is quite strange if you consider what normally happens on the market, on the research, the prices have lower.
And methodology was even able to supply direction to change details, even the small ones like the buckle, and to choose effective leverages for the communication. So, this is a methodology not only for smart clients, because every client immediately understands and is fascinated by the advantages of having all together. If you tell a client, would you like to have qualitative insight and numbers and an involvement index so you can choose the winning product? Yes, every client is interested in. And
the online part of the approach being very effective, does it affect the concreteness of feel and touch?
And finally, this methodology allows the target to have a go with the product, so then they can feel the product. And so we are we are at the solution benefits.
First of all, this method is blended, a very rich set of information, not only well argumented and explained, but also with some relevant data about the opportunities.
And then it's actionable because it is able to declare clearly a winner, also with data born from a deep insight.
And then it gives us operational improvements. The client is clear, examining qualitative result as well as the semantic square and workload, both what to do to optimize the winning project and also how to do it.
And it is a what-to-do centered method because also gives a lot of information about how the product had to talk to the consumer. And so you can supply elements to communicate to the consumers.
And finally?
So finally, blending the advantages of qual insight with the determinism of number, but blending, let me underline for the last time, is not integrating, because it's just a smooth path that the interviewees follow.
And letting the number grow from the meaning.
It's not only for smart client.
And not only for smart interviewees. And let's say not only for smart researcher, as I am.
Thank you.